Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Raven Maureen, and come with me as I make my frocktails dress. Now, if this pattern doesn't look familiar to you, that's because I changed my frocktail plan. So this is Simplicity Pattern 9327. By no means is it a vintage pattern, but I thought that the dress had really great line illustrations, and I decided that this was probably a really great alternative. So just to keep things really brief, when I made the muslin for my vintage pattern, it just did not look well on me. Like, it was crushing my bust line, and with just a week to get my project together, I felt that instead of trying to like make the fit work and feel just awkward and uncomfortable, I wanted to go with something that might make me feel better. So I kept all of my fabric and everything the same, and I literally just switched up the pattern. So I am making a combination of the views. So I'm leaving the flounce off of the sleeves, and I am doing basically a v-neck, and I'm leaving the sash off as well. And then this is going to be like a T-length dress. I bought a T-length crinoline slip off of Amazon. Someone asked me before why I didn't make it. Quite frankly, I didn't feel like it. Time wasn't on my side. While I could make something like that, I just feel like my time would be better used actually working on my garment here. Let's talk a little bit about the fabric. This is all light pink. I used some 3D flower fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby, followed by some light pink organza and some light pink poly satin. I cut a size 18 for my pattern piece, and you guys will see the rest. So I stay stitched pattern piece number 1 along the neck edge and just along that princess seam line right here. So the organza is going to go over the light poly satin, the light pink poly satin, and I'm basically going to base stitch all of these on all the sides, and then these are my lining pieces, so these will be how they are. So I am adjusting my stitch length not quite to 5.0, but more like 3.8, 4.0 area range. And I'm actually going to do like the larger sides first because I don't want them to shift. And that's the other reason why I'm using a basting stitch. Sometimes when you use a tighter stitch and you're trying to layer fabric, it can really cause a lot of bunching and cause a lot of unevenness. And so I wanted to make sure that these pieces were completely even, one right on top of the other. And what I'm essentially doing is making it one pattern piece. And once the organza and the poly satin are sewn together, we are going to treat this as one pattern piece. So if you ever need to make a dart or anything like that, you would make the dart after you put your pattern pieces together. pattern piece number 3, I did stay stitch it, but also notice that there is a dart there. So I'm actually going to do my overlay first and then do my darts. Okay, so I basted it all around and now I'm gonna do the darts. Okay, so we have a little problem. This happened with the iron. I burnt a hole in the organza. Yeah, I just wasn't being smart about it. And I was like, yeah, let's use steam. So I have some appliques that I got from that Fabric Mart bundle that I could put. But I feel like this is gonna clash with the 3D skirt. Like this would be perfect. Like if I didn't have a 3D flower skirt, right? So this is just kind of like some little tricks that I learned at work, is like cover it up with an applique. So option number 1 to be like to possibly dye the applique. Option number 2 would be to find some pink applique, or I could pull from the skirt and put some 3D flowers over the dart. So let's see. Okay, so I just kind of fussy cut like 2 like random pieces, and I think this actually looks good. So I'm gonna sew this down and that shouldn't be a problem anymore, right? I'm also gonna like play with my iron settings before I ruin any more pieces, because this could make for a really long project. So I did make a YouTube short and an Instagram reel documenting this entire snafu that I had. And so I'm going to show a clip of it off to the right side of the screen so you guys kind of get the gist of how I was able to more or less create this little applique detail and hand sew it onto the back of my bodice. I did sew the applique on here, or a little bit of the skirt fabric on here to kind of cover up that burn mark, and it may look a little inconsistent on the bodice, so I might add a few more pieces like this onto pieces of the bodice. Like this is technically the back, which is also a very good thing, but like maybe on like the opposite piece of this, I might add the appliques to like the shoulder part or something to kind of make it look like it wasn't a oopsie, you know? So once I put that piece of the bodice to the side, I did move on to the front parts and I connected all of my pieces together. And if you're wondering just how did I manage to press these seams, I did grab a washcloth, and as you know, I always use my pressing hand for princess seams, and I just kind of kept the iron moving, obviously on the lowest setting. I didn't want to keep it on one place on the bodice at all. That way I could avoid any sort of holes or mistakes. So luckily, that is the only burn on the bodice, and it happened on the back. After connecting the outer pieces together, I did connect the lining pieces, and now I'm understitching them. Once I finished the bodice, I got started on my skirt. So in my original design process for the skirt, I wanted like 5 layers of fabric, y'all. Like I was being so extra. I was gonna do poly satin, organza, 2 layers of tulle, and then do my 3D flower fabric on top. Like once I saw that like I was like in the thick of it and I had like maybe a day and a half to finish my project, I decided that I was going to simplify everything and just have poly satin and the 3D flower fabric on top as an overlay. So what I actually did here was I sewed all of my poly satin pieces together like I normally would do any other skirt. And I also sewed together all of my 3D flower panels together like I would do any other normal skirt. Once my panels were finished, I decided to grab my yarn and put my machine on the zigzag stitch, and I went very carefully over this tulle. Like, I really didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't think my fabric was going to make it, but I went super slow and it worked out, y'all. Okay, so my skirt is gathered. I used some wonder clips to actually add this to my bodice, but if you can't tell by my face, I'm having serious doubts about this entire project now. Like, I am doubting every single decision I've just made, but I gotta go through with it. Once I added my 3D fabric to my bodice, I went ahead and I repeated the very same steps for my poly satin fabric. And this was actually a lot easier than it sounds. You're literally just adding layers to the skirt and you're putting it on the waistline. And since my zipper goes on the back seam of the skirt, my zipper actually does not even go up the back bodice piece at all. It only goes on the skirt. I went ahead and I basted down the seam line that the zipper is supposed to go on. So essentially it connected the 3D flower fabric to the poly satin just on that basting line, and it actually made the zipper easier to install as well. And this was all trial and error. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. So the next time I make a really nice fancy dress like this, I'll definitely share more with you all in detail, because then I'll feel more confident about it. But I was literally just winging it with this, and it turned out fine. So I just pretty much went ahead and continued with closing up that seam of the zipper as well. So remember how I said I wanted to add like more applique just to kind of like make my burn a little less obvious? So that's what I'm doing pretty much. So I already added one to like the front shoulder, and I'm also gonna add some to like the other side of the shoulder, and I pretty much mirrored the back pieces so that they'll look essentially the same, I guess you could call it. But my dress is pretty much done. I'm so excited that I was able to finish on time. I am going to actually hand sew all of this once I get to Atlanta. I'm just way too tired to really do anything else right now. And so I will be bringing like a small needle and thread to do that. But if you're interested in watching my Frocktails weekend adventures with one of my good friends, So Stacy, make sure you watch the next video that's coming out, and you guys can catch up on all of that good stuff, and you can see this dress in action, in the wild, and all of that. I want to thank you guys so much for watching tonight. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.